Sounds good.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. All right, guys. Hey, today I am joined with Kendra Olsen. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
She is a licensed clinical social worker and perinatal mental health specialist and founder of Psychotherapy for Maternal Wellbeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kendra has spent nearly 2 decades supporting women through the emotional challenges of fertility struggles, pregnancy loss, perinatal and postpartum mood concerns, and the complex transition into motherhood. She blends evidence-based approaches with deep empathy and lived motherhood experience to help clients build confidence, coping skills, and well-being through the family building years. Outside of her clinical work, Kendra is a mother herself and passionate advocate for normalizing mothers' emotional experiences and empowering them to thrive in all stages of motherhood. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
So for those meeting you for the first time, can you share a little bit about who you are, your story, the work you do, and what led you to focus on maternal and reproductive mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a licensed mental health therapist. So I own a private practice, kind of as you summarized, that specializes in perinatal and maternal mental health. So basically, mostly working with women who are in those like family building years of life, whether it be at the very beginning, kind of conception, infertility struggles, all the way through, well into motherhood. They also have to be brand new into motherhood, but kind of encompassing all the changes and all the, both the good and the stress that can come with all that life phase. What led me to that work? Well, prior to being in my own practice, I was in a large healthcare system for about 12 years. Generalist, when you're a therapist, right, you see kind of everybody with all different sorts of concerns. And then, not surprisingly, once I became a mom myself, my then boss approached me and said, "Do you want to join our reproductive mental health team?" So similar kind of work. And I said, "Yeah, I think so." And it took me a little while because I was not even a year, into my first postpartum experience. And then, just started to see more and more clients in that space that were mothers. I had my own experiences with coming into motherhood and being really surprised by the stuff that was hard that I wasn't prepared for. Not always receiving maybe the best care or most kind of, emotionally in tune care that I think could have been received. And then COVID and pandemic, to shorten this and not be long-winded, at some point I had 2 kids at that point, and I said, I can't do this much work and do all of this. And I really want to focus just kind of on this population of people. So yeah, about 3 years ago, now into year 4, I launched my own practice, and now that's who I see as moms. So nice. And I love it.
And you're passionate about it. Yeah. So you support people through fertility challenges, pregnancy, postpartum, and major life transitions. What are some common struggles you see with people carrying silently during these transitions?
Yeah. Infertility struggles, I would say what a lot of clients, of course, talk about is a feeling of loneliness, isolation, very intense grief for a lot of people, whether that's they're still in the process of treatments and it's unknown if they will, have a baby via IVF or whatever treatments they're using. There's a lot of grief and loss in that experience. Sometimes fertility treatments don't work. And it's people kind of grappling with what now and what does this mean, and what big decisions to be made. Pregnancy, right? Sometimes complicated pregnancies, like women might be coming in with either medically complex pregnancies, maybe there's something going on with the baby that they're preparing for once baby delivers, medical issue of whatever sort, or they're just having a hard time.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of pressure that women can feel, that you're supposed to feel like it's the best time of your life and feel great, right? And not everybody feels that way. That's not everybody's experience. So that can also be lonely and isolating.
For sure.
So supporting them through that. Postpartum, sometimes just the adjustment it is, which is intense. It's a lot. And sometimes there are people that do experience, something we'd give a diagnosis to, right? To like postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. And that's just the surface level of clinical diagnoses in terms of like what can happen postpartum and how vulnerable everyone's mental health is in that time period. Doesn't mean you're to develop, something that's a disorder diagnosis, but everybody's vulnerable, right? Because it's such a huge life change. And a lot of the stuff I'm working with clients who aren't necessarily having a full-blown anxiety disorder, for example, is this experience into matrescence. And matrescence is that word that describes akin to adolescence, but now it's happening coming into motherhood, right? Which is this just radical social, emotional, physical, relational change that happens when you become a mom. And you can feel sad, you can feel nervous and anxious, you can feel overwhelmed with responsibility, and we don't need to pathologize that necessarily. Again, sometimes people really we have mental health concern we need to treat, and other times it's just support around like what you're feeling is normal.
I tell people, sometimes when your body's off, and a lot of times with pregnancy, your hormones are off, your body's going through a different change, your mind's off.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yep. And so to have support as your body, as your mind changes and your body changes, and that like personally that brought up a lot of anxiety for me, because it's like usually I'm normal in my body, but when you're pregnant, you're not normal. And you're edgy, and and different things can come up. And then also, when you're after, pregnancy and labor never is perfect. I mean, sometimes it is
birth trauma. That is another big
making
piece.
sure that you dig that out and kind of cope afterwards before you decide to have another one. And not bring that into the second pregnancy or second labor.
Yeah, it's a huge spectrum of not even so much what can go wrong, but I think we don't normalize enough. Like there's a lot of sides to this experience. It's not all joy, right? It's stressful. It can be hard. Things can go not expected, right? Like with birth trauma or things like that. And everything that happens before you become a parent or a mom then influences how you experience becoming a parent or a mom. And I think we're not taught that. If you have infertility struggles, if you have pregnancy loss, if you come into parenthood and you don't have one of your parents for whatever reason, right? Like all that stuff affects how you adjust to being a parent yourself.
And even if you have a good community, it's really nice to have a non-associated person that you can just talk to.
Having a baby could you could have good relationships, and you could still bring up like relationship dynamics with your most loved ones. It's like could be tricky and a little stressful.
So many people think therapy is only for crisis moments. How do you help clients understand when support could be helpful, even if they feel like they're functioning on the outside?
Good question. I would say if I were to divide the types of clients I see. So sometimes, I get clients in crisis. So either, they're brand new mom and they have not slept and their baby isn't feeding well and they are over the edge, right? That it is a crisis and we need to start caring, get them support and talk about all things. Another half of my clients being kind of maybe more are experiencing that matrescence experience. So they're functioning, right? They're going to work or they're taking care of their kids, they're doing what they need to do or doing, they're functioning, but we could argue what's the quality of your functioning? What's your contentment level? How are you feeling day to day? What's your emotional fuse like, right? That it still means you could use the support, right? Or I think just sometimes that education just around what are you experiencing? Like, why are you so short fused all the time, right? It's a really common one that we get with moms that, again, aren't experiencing major depression or anxiety, but they'll be like, I am so short fused. I'm snapping at my kids. I'm snapping at my husband. I hate my husband. Some of those themes that they're like, I don't know what's going on with me. And there could be many different reasons that's happening. But I don't think we always allow, you're juggling a lot. You have high expectations of yourself, and society has really high expectations of you too, of how to be a good mom, and a pretty narrow box about how to do that. Right. So we're all socialized into that. So when it's hard, what I see most often is that moms will blame themselves, right? They'll say, I must be doing something wrong, or I'm not doing something right. It's about them versus well, wait a minute. What's the setup here? Right? Maybe you have, both parents potentially working, or you're at home all day long with your kids with no break. What are all these external factors for why you're feeling the way you're feeling? And that nobody can really sustain without breaks, without support.
And just fuses, if you don't get it out, it just builds up and builds up. It's not going to help if you just keep shoving it down. So what is it like to work with you? What does the first session look like, and how do you create a space that feels safe and supportive?
So what's it like to work with me? I try to, I think, find a balance in terms of my style as a therapist, that I like to think of myself as open, flexible. I think I have a more gently confrontational approach.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is just that I do let clients know when I see something that I think they need to see, right? Or like kind of reflect back to them, like, are you getting in your own way about this thing,
Yeah.
right? Are you self sabotaging? But I'm not a necessarily like straight from the hip, right? Kind of super direct. That's just not my style. Um, but I do feel my duty, of course, and part of my job is sometimes to call out what I'm seeing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the first session, I guess, to answer that question too, really is getting a lot of that history. To go back to kind of what I was saying before about, I want to know kind of your life path up to that, before that moment of becoming a mom, because that all informs kind of, it's influential in how you're experiencing becoming a mom, your adjustment rate, any risk factors sometimes to just mental health being needing more support. So it's helpful for me to have all that history, all that information. So generally, that first session is me asking a lot of questions and to everyone's comfort level sharing.
Yeah.
But that relationship develops over time at different paces for different people. There's no rush. Cause especially if someone's not done therapy before, it can be weird to go in and talk to a stranger and
Yeah.
tell, all your stuff too. But I generally find um, people warm to that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't. Hopefully, maybe that speaks to a safe space. I see folks both in person in a very nice office setting, and then I also do over video too. Yeah, video maybe is a different challenge. We're not physically in the same space with each other, but it generally works just as well.
Can you also offer a short conversation with someone prior
Yes,
to
yeah, for
making an
sure.
appointment?
Yes, most times I'll talk with somebody on the phone and just hear a little bit about what is going on for them, what they're looking for,
Yeah.
and then certainly answer any questions they have. Share a little bit about myself, so in a way, right? The idea is we're both figuring, does this feel like a good fit? Can I
Yeah.
provide what you're looking for? Do they feel at ease on the phone call? Of course, that's for them to kind of feel out, because that relationship ultimately is probably the most important, rather than like what type of therapy I do, or like yes, of course,
Mm-hmm.
we'll work on coping skills, but really it's the relationship.
Nice.
You need to feel
And they
like it's a
can
good fit.
kind of get a little
Mm-hmm.
idea before they schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that's nice. So your philosophy centers around compassion, resilience, and whole person care. What do you hope clients gain, not just emotionally, but in how they move through life after working with you?
Um, yeah. I mean, I guess I use the word confidence a lot in when I
Yeah.
talk about you know the themes and the work that I do with moms, especially whether they're brand new moms, right, or maybe they're well into motherhood. What I hope, I think, for a lot of my clients, right, is that they can now kind of walk through the world in confidence and kind of feel like they can narrate their own experience of motherhood, meaning like they can decide how they do motherhood. Because again, I think it's really prescribed how we're supposed to do it, right? Or there's a lot of judgment and opinions on mothers in particular in how they choose to spend time with their kids or not, or work or out of the home or not, right? I mean, the work in the home is minimized and
Mm-hmm.
devalued, right? So, I have moms that also work at home. I have moms that are at home with their kids, and either way, um, it's a lot of work. It's hard, and even if your work isn't paid, it's work, and that isn't really recognized, I don't think, in our culture the way it should be. So, and then again, I think it puts a lot of pressure, especially in recent years. I see with clients, right, of just like, I need to be on 100% of the time with my kids all the time, doing all the things. Social media influences on that. That it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's expectations nobody can meet, and it's also not necessary for you to have healthy, well-adjusted kids. And you being healthy, well-adjusted as mom is equally as important.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
self
they,
care,
yeah, right.
advocating for self care,
Yes, you're
and
still an individual. You
yeah.
still have your own needs that need to be met
And you kind
regularly.
of get lost, like as a mother,
Yes.
you get lost in what your kids need, and you love them so much
Mm-hmm.
that you kind of it's really easy to lose yourself and lose who you are.
Yes.
So kind of
Yes.
giving yourself just time to reconnect with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And we live in a society, right, and culture that says you taking time for yourself means you're doing it over your kids, and that makes you a bad mom. right?
That guilt.
So that also kind of perpetuates, I think, being like at the bottom of the list, or I can't think about myself today. I got to think about my kids, and before you know it, right, you're fried.
Yeah, and your kids need that. Like your kids need you to show up. Yeah.
Yes.
So if someone is interested in scheduling or learning more about you, what's the best way to reach you?
Probably the easiest is go to my website. That's pfmwellbeing.com. You can click the contact button and it will shoot you to my schedule, and you can just select a day and time for that free phone consultation. If you can't find times on there that work for you, or you have a special request of whatever sort, you can always shoot me an email. Phone number is also on the website. You can text. Yeah, we find a way to make it work for what everybody's needs are, but that typically is the easiest. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing what you do. And
yeah,
if anyone would like to learn more, I highly recommend reaching out to you.
Likewise.
Yes. Dr. Mallon, thank you for allowing me to be part of your health journey.